I'm going to just speak to David Honey, the state Liberal leader, who was obviously listening into the Premier when he was on talking about a few issues there, the floods, the gas issue from Wheatstone, and of course corrective services and Banksia Hill. Mr. Honey joins me. Sorry, Dr. Honey joins me. Thanks very much for your time, David.
Yeah, good morning, Gary, and good morning to your listeners.
Do you accept that if Wheatstone's up and running, and things do happen, and if Wheatstone's up and running in the next 48 hours, we should be okay?
Look, well, that depends, obviously. I mean, there are clearly some issues in the whole gas supply system because we had those Santos problems.
Yep.
And then, Devil Island, there's some issues. And of course, the Chevron have had some issues as well. But what I've said all along is two things. One, in every case, Minister Johnston's come out and said this isn't going to impact anyone. And then within a day or so, it's had major impacts. You'd recall on the Santos, it shut down the ammonia plant in the Burrup, the biggest ammonia plant in Australia. And then, of course, we've had this impact on Alcoa. And I know from personal experience just the chaos it causes when you've got to shut units down and so on in plants. Huge impacts that go for months, actually, after you do it. So I don't know why Minister Johnston keeps coming out and saying nothing to see here, but I might say that's his modus operandi on everything. It's either nothing to do with him or nothing's going to happen, and then it does. So I don't think he's got his finger on the pulse. I think he's too busy. I think most people that know Minister Johnston know that he's a pretty diligent sort of a guy. But I think with mines, energy and corrective services, he's overwhelmed and he's not doing any of them well.
So you're saying that the portfolios need to be split, are you, as opposed to his scalp?
Absolutely. It's very clear. I mean, the whole area, and I might just to focus in on the juvenile justice area, Gary, that area, and I think Robin hit the nail on the head in part with that, and your last caller as well in part, and that is that, of course, the prison's the end of a list of failures, and those kids that caused the big riots at Banksia, my understanding is that they were pretty well all a group of kids that had come down from Kununurra. They were causing chaos there in the community. The police did a blitz, arrested a whole group of kids. They came down, they caused chaos at Banksia Hill, and then they went off to Casuarina because they couldn't be contained in Banksia. But and that's a failure of government, and we've said this for years, Gary. They're ignoring government. They talk big about programs. They love talking about programs, but if you actually go there on the ground, it's Armageddon in some of those communities, and the government's not tackling it at that level. And clearly on the Banksia side, I understand listeners' concerns that there's got to be appropriate responses to bad behaviour, and I think everyone agrees with that. But equally, you desperately hope that these kids can turn their lives around, and there's got to be a huge focus on that. But the larger percentage of these kids just go on to adult prison, so that's failing as well.
All right, well, it's complicated. We all get that. Appreciate you joining us today.
Cheers, Gary. Thanks for your time.
Dr. David Honey, the State Liberal leader, 133882, if you want to have your say.